Webster, Tarpley, what is happening here? A, what was the point of the PSYOP? B, how is the PSYOP going? Do you concur that it is turning into a complete blow-up-in-the-face rout of the system?
Well, I certainly think that the contradictions and the clowning and bungling of the Obama White House has helped a lot of people to see that this was a manufactured story. We have to remember that this pseudo-Bin Laden, right, we're talking about the alleged death of a pseudo-Bin Laden because we know nothing. There's nothing substantiated, nothing proven in this. But that's the life of Bin Laden. He died as he lived, in a sense. Never anything proven about him. There's all the things you think you know about him, be it the 9/11 stuff, right? The hijackers, all the rest of this stuff. These are simply assertions of the FBI at the time. And if you go back to the famous speech of FBI Director Mueller in the Cosmos Club of, the Cosmopolitan Club, the Commonwealth Club of San Francisco in 2002, he said that in all running around in Afghanistan that the U.S. had done, not one scrap of evidence had ever come to the surface connecting anything in Afghanistan to 9/11. So this is simply an exercise in mass brainwashing. Now, we used to think that the neocons were the greatest liars of the age, but they have now been eclipsed by Obama and his soft power group. And what is, I think, disturbing is a lot of the left-wing elites, the people who used to be peaceniks when it was a question of Bush and Cheney at war, have now become warmongers. And you're seeing the entire left liberal community going, as I had feared 3 years ago, from being opponents of military adventurism to becoming the leading edge with the bloodthirsty rhetoric. Now, the timing, I think, has everything to do with what you've just mentioned. The attempt by Saudi Arabia and Pakistan to join together and make a joint escape or jailbreak from the U.S.-British world empire, it seems to me, is the reason for this. Remember, they have invested hundreds of billions of dollars in building up Bin Laden as a figure to disorient and confuse people in the Arab and Islamic worlds. They don't liquidate this from one day to the next for no reason. So it's an extreme situation, a desperate situation.
They've actually tried to manufacture in the last 15 years their own opposition. And I noticed the new 4 leaders of al-Qaeda, 3 of them are admittedly born in the U.S., and 2 of them you can 100% prove work for Western intelligence. I mean, this is getting so cartoonish, Webster.
Well, you have, I guess it comes down now to a fight between Anwar Awlaki of New Mexico, known in the trade as Awlaki, the CIA lackey, versus Ayman Zawahiri of MI6. So we've got a CIA candidate and an MI6 candidate, and nothing good to be expected from it. It's clear that Bin Laden, the biological Bin Laden, has been dead for a long time. What you've had in the meantime is a kind of theater company, puts out audio tapes, videotapes. The doubles that they use have not been very consistent. We've had a fat Bin Laden, a thin Bin Laden, an angry Bin Laden, a jovial Bin Laden.
We've had old recut tapes of when he was alive. The CIA has admitted, May 25th, 2010, Spy Talk, Washington Post, that, yeah, we made some fake videos, trying to basically put that out the back door in case it ever comes out in a big way later. Also, the re-election launch bid. But Webster, I want to continue why they're doing this, why they're going after Pakistan right now. But first, before we get into more detail there, how is it going? Studying what's happening with them, how is this going for the power structure right now?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of international attention to the bungling side of it, but in terms of the overall judgment, this is not clear because we have to remember that the main problem now is that the danger of the false flag terror attack attributed to this. As we went into the weekend, or at the middle of the weekend, by Saturday night, the danger was a false flag terror attack attributed to Libya, pinned on Libya in the wake of the attempt to assassinate Gaddafi, and indeed the assassination of his son and 3 grandchildren, right, little kids. Now, as of Sunday, the main danger shifts to a false flag terror attack possibly attributed to Al-Qaeda, but you also have CIA spokesmen, informal ones, coming forward to say there will be a new terror attack, we would say a false flag event, with the attempt to attribute this to the Inter-Services Intelligence Service of Pakistan, the Pakistani version of the CIA. So I think right now it's maximum alert. And remember, the key to all this is when drills go live, when exercises are flipped live and taken live, this is when these tragic events occur. The build-up in regard to Pakistan, there was a very harsh statement by the United States in one of these terror reports about 4 to 5 weeks ago, about the time that Bandar went to Islamabad. We then had this Ray Davis case, which you point out, with a lot of accusations being made in the Pakistani media about possible activities as a terror controller and possible involvement in the attempt to create a radiological dirty bomb. Let's think about that, because that may be the template that's going to be used.
Then they say we've got to go in and have war and take the nukes away from Pakistan. But expanding on that, first they said Davis wasn't CIA. Later they had to admit he is CIA. So just this continued wall of deception, and the system is losing all credibility as they're caught in more lies.
Certainly, on the international level, this is for sure. We also then had this question of Admiral Mullen going to Pakistan and saying, you guys work with the Haqqani network, you're no good. And then we had WikiLeaks, the famous CIA limited hangout operation, putting out all this stuff about how the center of gravity of Al-Qaeda is really in Pakistan. So WikiLeaks doing its job for the CIA once again.
Absolutely. Stay there, Webster. I want to break down this looming maximum alert false flag. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is not some fancy of radio that we're here. Ooh, the maximum alert is here. I totally agree with Webster Tarpley. This weekend, Tarpley was here during the week, but this weekend we had another person here in town to be interviewed for a film, and we were all in there eating barbecue, and I said, I feel the greatest disturbance in my gut I've ever felt. And I told my wife, I told people in the office, I said, I think it's war. And obviously you study intellectual information, and then basically your subconscious analyzes it and is more powerful than your conscious and tells you, man, this is bad. But I was able from the chatter pre-9/11 to predict that they would blow up the World Trade Centers and blame it on their CIA asset, bin Laden, because I saw the pre-programming. It was very obvious. They are in CBS News everywhere. They put out news the last month that Al-Qaeda's got nukes buried. WikiLeaks, that they're going to detonate nukes in Europe and the U.S. if he's killed. That comes out right before. I mean, come on. Folks, it's the scripting. It's like watching a bad drama. It's so fake. And you can just see it all happening. So when Webster Tarpley's telling you this, they're already hyping. And notice the circular logic. We go into the Middle East, bin Laden attacks us, we have a 10-year war. It's actually several trillion that have been spent, hundreds of billions domestically every year. It's not hundreds of billions. It's in the trillions now overall in the aggregate. And the circular logic is, now we kill him, and now here's the new 4 bin Ladens. You cut one head of the snake, 4 more. And on record, a whole bunch of them are globalist. I mean, on record at the Pentagon. And now we're going to have to kill them, and then there'll be even more terror attacks, and it just never ends. And Webster, they're on CBS News, you name it, saying now there are going to be checkpoints at all the malls, grocery stores. Everyone will have to be searched. I mean, this is again, to heighten the paranoia, Webster.
Well, we have now a situation where the U.S.-British imperialism, it doesn't really have an enemy image. And this, of course, is something they always want to have. For quite a while, it was the Soviet Union and world communism and the Warsaw Pact, or maybe Red China. Then it became, of course, bin Laden and terrorism.
So they have to attack us again to introduce the new bin Laden.
Yeah, some new enemy image has to be fabricated fairly quickly, given especially the tremendous economic and social crisis in this country. I'm interested to hear what you say, Alex, because my feeling is Sarajevo, 22nd of June, 1914, right? This assassination of an Austrian archduke by Serbs, egged on by the British and some French. And then 5 weeks later, you have the outbreak of World War I, the catastrophe. And in that period of 5 to 6 weeks, people write that they were living in a trance. They were in a dream world. They thought that the problem had been solved. They didn't think that there would be any general war. And precisely when they were most in the land of dreams and la-la land, that's when the mobilization started and the war became a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I think I think right now. I think right now we're probably going to. Right now, if people don't get the word out, we're probably going to have World War III. And I want to come back briefly, or start now, how that's going to unfold. Obviously, they strike Pakistan, claiming they're trying to get the nukes. They're now framing Pakistan, as you said months ago they would do, claiming they're working with Al-Qaeda. Then the Chinese get involved, the Indians come in, and the Middle East blows up even more, right as the dollar's plunging. I mean, you can see all the classic ingredients. As you've said, when the dollar starts going down, they start a war, and then they're going to blow up a bunch of stuff domestically, crack down on the media and say, we got to arrest people that say the government's doing it, and pull the plug on the web, the internet kill switch, and then all the good old boys will be worshiping Obama, and that's it. And the bankers win, and we're all enslaved, and the FEMA camps are opened up.
This is the moment when something like a general strike would normally come to mind as perhaps the only adequate response. In other words, a mass movement against the possibility of imminent war. The problem we have right now is that the left liberal opposition, the main forces of the peace movement that were deployed against Bush and Cheney up until 2007 or so, have now switched over into the warmonger camp. And if you watch the programs on MSNBC, if you watch the foundation-funded leftists who were such great enemies of Bush and Cheney, they are now bloodthirsty warmongers. They're calling for essentially attacks on Pakistan, or they're setting the stage for that. And we should remember, Pakistan is a huge country. It's almost 200 million people. There are nuclear weapons, and it just so happens that the supply line for the U.S. forces in Afghanistan goes across Pakistan, from the port of Karachi up through Pakistan, across the Khyber Pass. That is a supply.
Webster, let's talk about the time frame. I mean, is this a bluff to get the Saudis to go back and grovel to the Anglo-American establishment? How's it going to end? How could World War III start? Where do you think they'll launch their false flag and teach us to love them? You know, I don't want to get into a distraction here about media events that I've been part of. We're not playing most of the TV interviews here I've done the last few days, but one in particular. And we'll get the whole thing up on Infowars.com. I'll have one of my great webmasters out there post this Alex Jones and Osama video. But we're about to play it for the radio listeners and TV viewers at PrisonPlanet.tv here in a moment. But we'll also get it up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Just post the whole thing. It's short. And it says that the interview is disastrous. Hartman is totally outmatched and unable to lead Jones down the path he carves out and get him to criticize anything from a partisan perspective. Because they want to make it, oh, Republicans don't believe the bin Laden hoax, to then get Democrats tribally in identity think to go, oh, we now believe the hoax. We now identify with the war, like that rent-a-mob of mindless patsies, that the flash mob out there that could hardly talk. We've got the video on the website saying, and we love, oh, we'll kill Saddam. We killed Saddam. And they're like, Luke Radowski's like, it's bin Laden. Him too. I mean, it is just idiocy. They're trying to get them like baby chicks or baby geese, goslings, to identify. Because when a chick hatches out, or a gosling, they'll identify with someone in a goblin outfit with a red ball, whatever they see first, a dog, a person, and follow you around and worship you. So they're like, you know, oh, the war, torture, secret arrest, World War III's coming, you're going to get drafted. We're setting up FEMA camps, little goslings. Yeah, look, you love Obama. You've put your identity into him. You feel like he's getting beat up right now. Well, guess what? Torture and secret arrest in World War III are kind of sexy. And the goslings are, you know, chirp, 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 like a bunch of idiots. And they did not like it that I was leading the goslings, you know, to reality and to, you know, grow up and not be slaves and, you know, to actually, well, you see my point, Webster. And this Hartman guy melted down, just throwing PSYOP distractions in. And I called him. I said, it's a PSYOP. And he got this look on his face because they're following a handbook. And then I was on Inside Edition today was the same handbook. I mean, these guys are really revealing themselves, and we're having that moment where the facade is just falling everywhere, Webster. But you know why? People instinctively know World War III is about to happen. Depression. Folks, if we don't get the word out on these people, it's over. And then where will the chicken neck Hartman be? Hartman, do you really want to help the globalists launch World War III? Tarpley, what's your view?
Good question, Alex. Remember, the left liberals always believed in and needed the 9/11 myth even more than Bush and Cheney. Bush and Cheney were, of course, they built their house on 9/11 and the myth of bin Laden as the enemy image. But before too long, they shifted off. They had Saddam Hussein, they had Iraq, they had all sorts of other things. Whereas the left liberals stuck with the myth about 9/11. And this is the roots of this, what we see with Obama, right? That Iraq was the bad war and the mistaken war, but Afghanistan, of course, was the good war that had to be escalated, and that's, of course, what he's been doing. And it's clear to us that the real purpose of the Afghan war is to attack Pakistan, to export the Afghan civil war into Pakistan. Also for a deeper reason, that the left liberal wanted to believe that this group of Arab terrorists had been able to bring the United States to its knees, because this was the blowback thesis. They wanted to believe in the blowback thesis, which is a way of saying...
And America deserved it.
Yes, exactly.
That was the Ward Churchill tripe about the 3,000 that died were little Eichmanns, those little kids visiting mommy, the secretary. They deserved it.
Exactly. So there's a deep emotional need to believe in the myth, because the idea is that just punishment was meted out to the United States on 9/11. This is, of course, absolute baloney. There is no collective guilt. This was done by a network. The American people do not bear the collective guilt for this in any way. And, of course, the irony with bin Laden is that how many battles did he fight after his death, right? The best guess is that he died somewhere between 2001 and 2002. This is what the Pakistani government has said. It's been announced by FBI officials and others in these little red press things.
Who was the British Main Minister, Robin Page? A week after he went public, he had the heart attack and died, correct? That's the name on him.
Robin Cook.
Robin Cook. Actually, I had his statements printed out yesterday and then lost them, and I can't keep all the names straight. We also had Sybil Edmonds. We had Benazir Bhutto, the president. She said it. They killed her. I mean, they kill major government people when they touch this myth because they had a special narrative to unwind later.
Well, unfortunately, it just doesn't add up, right? And you have to be very gullible to believe the greatest liars of the age when they come with another one after all the ones you've mentioned. Remember the Spanish hero El Cid, played in the movies by Charlton Heston, the guy who fights his last battle when he's already dead? They strap him into a horse.
Yeah, he's been shot in the chest with an arrow. Excellent movie.
Exactly. It looks like, of course, that was a couple of days at most after the actual death. With bin Laden, he's still fighting battles 9 or 10 years after his alleged great feat. But, of course, it's all a tissue of lies. And I would tell people, don't get involved in the internal contradictions of this, because it's all invented beginning to end.
Exactly. They add all the admitted mini lies and stories to make you accept the larger system. Oh, well, it's only these lies, fog of war, right, instead of the whole thing being a ridiculous cornucopia of baloney.
The entire method of I guess it's the Hamilton, the Kane-Hamilton Commission, right? The National 9/11 Commission. Their method was simply to assume what they were supposed to prove. In other words, they started from the idea that bin Laden and Al-Qaeda did it, and then they took it from there. That is a lot.
Sure. Webster, I got to stop you. Bottom line, we'll get you back up either in the next few days or next week as this develops. They're saying it's a certainty we're going to be hit. Nukes. Are the globalists capable of even setting off a nuke? Where do you expect them to hit? What's the time frame? Do we call Congress, as I did in July of 2001, and say, don't stage the false flag? Do we call the White House right now?
I think it's important, as you say, to spread the word in any possible way, to inoculate people that if a false flag takes place, especially if it's attributed to Pakistan, the ISI, or any of the other factors that might be brought in, that this is axiomatically not to be believed. In other words, it's time to stop being gullible, or we will all have a hard time shift in the world that all of these countries, from Saudi Arabia to Pakistan, are interested in realigning with Russia, with China, with all kinds of other countries. And this is now there's a general jailbreak going on out in the world, of which you hear almost nothing in the media.
Webster, I've got to stop you again because we've got to go to this video, but I just want to say this. Of everybody we've interviewed, you have been the most accurate, frighteningly so. I mean, 2-3 months? It was longer than that. You said, watch Pakistan. It's next. They're going to try to blame them for terror. You broke down that they would try to connect things through these networks. You said a Lockheed, I remember 8 years ago with CIA. Now it's admitted. And you've really had your finger on the pulse. And that's what's so frightening is Ghoul agrees with you, Hamid Ghoul, General Ghoul, Steve Pachinik, Dr. Pachinik. I mean, and you can see them saying, oh, Pakistan's got a lot of splaining to do. I mean, you can really see, as the Rand Corporation said 2 years ago, they want a new world war, and it's on. I mean, it's on like Donkey Kong, as the kids popularly have said in the last decade. The kids. I don't get to be an old man here, folks. The youngins. I do sound like my grandpa now. But the point is that it is on. I mean, it is coming down, and I'm not, folks, I'm begging the listeners, people in government, media. I mean, a lot of times I'll be talking to these reporters and I say, look, this isn't funny. Come on, you know they lie. You understand how dangerous this is? We are at a historic crossroads, and if you can't feel it in your gut or even see it intellectually, when it all comes down, remember I told you again. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, they're fully capable of vaporizing the Sears Tower with a low-yield nuclear device, okay? Just like 9/11, I told you what they were going to hit. Okay, I can see into their eyes. I can see into their soul. I can study them. I know the enemy. And as you know yourself, I can see them bombing the Eiffel Tower. Unholy hell is being prepared. Okay? They are about to launch what's going to trigger World War III. And then they've got their bunkers, everything built. They've got their secret police grids. They've been running around to every professional in the country, including my dad, other dentists he knows, saying, will you spy on people for us? They've set up the grid. They're announcing on the news that TSA people are going to be sticking their hands down your pants now at the mall. This is martial law. This is Red Dawn. They are the terrorists. They are the foreign bankers that did this. Get it, folks. This is real. We were right. We know what we're talking about. Webster Tarpley, it's time to come to Jesus. It's time for folks to have that moment. It's time for them to wake up. Your final comments.
Well, my advice, as always, get active or get radioactive. Remember, the old Italian proverb says, lies have short legs. They don't last long. And you can't reorganize world affairs around a tissue of lies. So I recommend people get busy and get the truth out, and don't fall for these crazy stories. Don't be stampeded. That's what President Eisenhower said in the wake of the Kennedy assassination. Don't be stampeded. That's good advice right now.
Well, you said it, but they are. The lies do have short legs, like a wiener dog. But at the end of the day, they only need to carry us so far in our hype. Ooh, America, USA, USA. Boom, we get hit. America was hit after getting bin Laden. That's when the tactical nukes hit Islamabad. I mean, you can see the script and Obama up there at the photo op and the good old boys going, I like Obama now. And it's the Blitz Syndrome, where when we get bombed, we get angry. And it's all sleight of hand so they can finish destroying the country. Tarpley.net.
One other thing, though. There may be countervailing forces within the United States government. In other words, the network that wants this apocalyptic event that we seem to be seeing in front of us, they may not have the entire say. There may be some other faction that says, no, we'd rather not be involved in the thermonuclear confrontation with Russia and China and everything else that this would mean. We'd rather pull back from the brink and take some other approach. Don't exclude that possibility, because I think it's real.
Why do you think Steve Pachinik, who is a former, Black Ops, PsyOps dean, he's the Jack Ryan character on record, helps write Clancy's books, worked for Kissinger, all the other big kingmakers, Baker. Why do you think he would come on my show, I think I contacted or he contacted me. He contacted me in 2002 saying he died of renal failure. They're going to roll him out later. Then Albright came out and confirmed that. But the point is, now he comes back on and says, Bush Cheney did 9/11. I know a top general who was in there. I'm ready to testify in federal court. Call me. This is a guy no one even has his photo. And he's coming out because he says, yes, we're on the verge of total meltdown of everything. Clearly things are getting crazy.
Perhaps this illustrates what I was trying to point to. He may indeed, I'd have to study the particular case more closely, but he may indeed represent the kind of phenomenon that might occur at this point. In other words, a more rational faction which does not want to go into the abyss of some kind of a strategic adventure and a world conflagration.
But it's almost like German high command that didn't want to go into Russia, but then Hitler was actually running things so they could. But there is no head of this. It's a bunch of addled oligarchs when they're not, taking ballet lessons from Rahm Emanuel together and having their valets service them, their male valets. They're prancing around preparing World War III. I mean, how do you stop a group of demonic zombies?
Well, that's where getting the word out, in other words, making the perspective absolutely clear that this is not going to be a cakewalk, which is what they tell themselves, that the potential here is for military action that would not be a one-way street. In other words, it would mean losses for the aggressor, assuming the United States is taking that role, that it's fraught with danger, and that the intelligent thing to do is not to jump over the edge of this cliff and then see what happens.
Well, that's what Pachenik said. He said all this domestic police state is going to trigger resistance. And at the same time, if they left these other countries alone, they wouldn't run away from the Anglo-Americans. They've totally lost the soft power. They think they're covered because the liberal and conservative flanks love war, get off on it at a subconscious level because of their impotent in their soul. And it's a perfect storm. Folks, I feel the disaster coming. I just want to tell you right now. And you better pray to God, and you better get involved because trust in God, but tie up your camel, as the Bedouins say. Webster, great talking to you. Be safe there.
My final advice, let us work now while it is called the day, for the night cometh in which no man can work, and no woman either.
Yeah, thank you. Boy, I'm getting chills. And